Hi kids! As a great contemporary philosopher once said, for most of us, we tend to have our fair share of good and bad luck throughout our life. Well, in this series, we'll talk about some people that were not most of us. People whose luck needle was pointed more toward misfortune than anything else, but also didn't let this unhealthy balance of destiny stop them in their way of remarkable achievement. The first of our specimen was one Antoine Joseph Sax. Born on November 6, 1814 in Dinant of what is now Belgium, he had a rough start by modern standards, since everyone decided to call him Adolf. Luckily, this would have been acceptable for another 150 years or so. Nothing remarkable happened until he graduated from baby to toddler, and as between 95 and 100% of all toddlers do, he picked up the healthy hobby of finding creative ways of ending his barely walking life. If you've been around a toddler for any length of time, you'll probably know that one moment you're taking a nap and as soon as you turn around they'll be practicing bungee jumping without a rope. But our Adolf was on a different level. To give you an example, just at 3 years old he got hungry and wanted some breakfast. So he drank a full bowl of diluted sulfuric acid, as you do. Thirst quenched, he still felt a rumble in his belly, or it was just his stomach melting, who knows. So he ate a nice ripe sweet needle. Evidently, his will to live was stronger than said acid, so he carried on. Now his parents were both instrument makers, and he keenly observed and learned their trade in his father's workshop. What he also did in there was getting hit in the head by a brick. As he grew up, it turns out he had a real talent for those instruments. Joe Santi from the Museum of Musical Instruments in Brussels said how a young Sax could use his father's workshop as his own, making clarinets as young as 14 and improving them on the way. Sadly, a talent Adolf didn't have was flying, as he soon discovered when he fell from a third-story window. Not satisfied with his flight experiments, one day he wanted to be nice to his family and prepare some lunch. A bad decision on his part, since his face almost became the lunch when he fell face first into a searing hot cast iron skillet. Shortly after, he decided to present 9 of his new works to the Belgian exhibition, and his mom was like, "Dear son, have you packed everything tight?" "Yep, all secured." "Did you forget your lunch, my dear?" "Nope, all packed up, needle salad and everything." "Come on, mom, don't worry about me, I'll come back safe and sound." "Yeah, I'm not sure about that." At this point, his poor mother was so nerve-wracked that said, and I quote, "He's a child condemned to misfortune, he won't live," and nicknamed him Little Sax, the Ghost. The love of a mother truly knows no end. So I went to this exhibition, almost drowned in a river, presented these instruments, and they were a huge success. But at this point he was just 16, and by any stretch should have taken the first prize at home. But due to his youth, he was awarded only a medal for his work, which was declined by young Sax, while saying, "If they think me too young to deserve the gold medal, I myself think me too old to accept this vermeil one." My man. At this point, his skill and talent at making instruments and avoiding certain death was unquestionable, especially after he carved a flute and a clarinet out of ivory, a feature considered impossible at the time, especially by a youngling. So he went off to the Royal Conservatory of Brussels. And life there was good, but pretty uneventful. Well, except when he woke up with a light headache, only to discover that he slept in a room where freshly varnished furniture was drying. Now, by most standards, he shouldn't have woken up at all, but I suppose at this point the spirit of death was tired of even trying. So off he went. Conservatory finished, to the surprise of everyone, he reached adulthood, and went off to the big wide world, and Paris will eventually become his home. And starting in 1842, he patented his first important invention, an improvement on the bass clarinet. What he didn't invent but really needed was a fresh varnishing products detector, since he, again, slept into what is essentially an IKEA gas chamber. But, again, he woke up with just a headache. After a couple of years, precisely on the 28th of June 1846, he patented an obscure instrument you might have heard of, the saxophone. And I don't need to tell you how important this instrument eventually became. Although our boy dreamed of the sax being used in classical orchestras, but during his life they were mostly used by military bands and a couple of other brass-focused bands. Unsatisfied with this outcome, our sax bomb went to sleep, and you'll never guess where he decided to sleep. Yep, a room where freshly varnished furniture was drying. I guess old habits really die hard. Just like Adolf. And would you know it, he woke up as fresh as a rose. At this point, Death was like, alright, this dude is apparently the illegitimate son between Stradivari and the Hulk. If toxic gases won't work, then good old poverty will have to do. So the spirit of Death went to his instrument maker's competition and said, listen dude, you have to help me out. This dude is goddamn unbreakable. Just go and contest his patents and bring financial ruin onto him, would you? And so they did. And while he continued to make instruments and teach the new saxophone course at the Paris Conservatory, the issues with patents would eventually bring him to bankruptcy in 1852. And when the next year he still didn't kick the bucket, Death was pretty pissed off and went like, alright dude, I tried to give you the easy way out, so lip cancer it is. So bankrupt Adolf now also suffered from god-awful cancer. And this threat loomed over him for 5 years, until, to the surprise of no one, he made full recovery. Sadly, legal troubles with the patents would carry on for almost 20 years, and he was driven into bankruptcy another 2 times, in 1873 and 1877. But he went on for another 17 years, and at one point he must have forgotten to activate his juggernaut powers, because on the 6th of February of 1894 he died of pneumonia in absolute poverty. But hey, at least at 90 he outlived most of everyone else. So in the end, he had an unremarkable death for a remarkable life, and his legacy still goes strong and probably will for many succeed years. Also, I want to say that while all the incidents I mentioned really did happen, in my research I couldn't find an accurate timetable for them, so I took some creative liberty for the timings. So, moral of the story kids, if you have a talent for something, no matter what kind of shit and shit bricks life keeps throwing at you, don't give up, and you might achieve what you wish for. So that's the end of the story. And if you like this video, please consider subscribing, and maybe leaving a like. It's free, convenient, and 100% recyclable. Anyways, that's all for today. I'm your host Luca, this was Correro Academy, and thanks for watching.